Hey, everybody, we're back for another edition of the Hardy Bros podcast.
Yeah.
I'm one of your hosts, Scott Hardy. I'm joined by my brother.
Hell yeah, Keith Hardy right here.
Okay.
We're ready. Let's do this.
Yeah. So it's Thursday, December 28th in the year of our Lord 2023, whatever that means, right? So we're going to recap one of our more popular podcasts we did a year or two ago about where Keith and I grew up. It's called Black's Landing. Named after, is it our great-great-grandfather? Yeah. Ed.
James Benjamin Black.
Yep. James Benjamin Black, whose name still runs throughout the family to this day.
Yep.
Whether it's a first name or a middle name. And of course, the Blacks, So that's Black's Landing is located in Leesburg, Indiana, on beautiful Lake Tippecanoe. And it was established by our great-great-grandfather in 1870s. Tell a story, Deed.
1878. Yeah, he bought a 20-acre tract of land. And to this day, I think there's still about 3 acres left between me and Lynn Black, our cousin, and of the original 20 acres. So anyway, he bought that in 1878 and lived a good life and created many memories there. And we have the podcast today is about some of those memories coming back, not necessarily to haunt, but very spiritual and interesting stuff going on. Yeah.
Yeah. So keep talking, Deed. I gotta plug this up. I got to plug my cable in here, folks. Sorry. Oh, it's not a live broadcast, but it's it's live to Keith and I. So
Yeah.
There we go.
Right. Well, you can edit that out.
Yeah, we'll see.
So here we go. So, if you view the first podcast that we did of Haunted Black's Landing, and you can catch some of the stories that we talked about then, some experiences that I had, Scott had, my son had, wife, all the experiences
your in-laws
talked about. Yeah.
Keith's in-laws live right next door to him, so they've had some experiences too.
Yeah, and when they moved in the house, it belonged to my aunt, and they had her ashes and her husband's ashes from, I think,
1983.
Yeah, in the 1980s. But they had them both together in a trunk upstairs as we were in the process of closing on the house and moving my mother and father-in-law in there. And they experienced some unique things, right? And so the crazy thing is now, this past, I don't know, month or so, she's been saying stuff to us, talking to us about they're hearing things, they're just kind of seeing apparitions in the house.
Wow.
And I don't know if it's just because of the holiday season. I don't know if it's when the original owner, which was Max and Donna Bevington, but I don't know if that's when Max died. He was in a car accident in the 80s. But it's interesting because they, the folks that live in the house, they don't really buy into that stuff, so to speak. But now they're experiencing it firsthand, and so it's making for an interesting story. And it's not anything that's scary.
That's good.
Which is good, right? I don't think it's anything bad. I know my mother-in-law, she experienced some dreams about some Indians or Native Americans, which kind of freaked her out a little bit. But this other stuff with, I believe, my aunt and uncle is not scary. And whether it's residual, I think it's just kind of a residual thing versus intelligent thing. But I don't know. They're not talking to them, so
I'm convinced it's an Indian burial ground.
Well, not right there where the property is, but
not where you're at, but where
behind us,
we used to live, the haunted house. Just the mounds, the way it's up on hills in the backyard there, it wouldn't surprise me any.
Well, I learned some new stuff about the house I live in. Which we had some experiences there. Again, refer to the first podcast if you want. My son and myself experienced some, I don't know, pretty heavy stuff that wasn't necessarily friendly. A lot of it was Native American stuff and Indians, apparitions. But here was a crazy thing. I just found this out over the holiday when Elizabeth, Clara, my daughters were home for Christmas. My daughter Clara, she used to see a little girl in the room. It was a non-friendly, and I don't know who the little girl would be. We didn't have any deaths of little girls. There were some infant mortalities at birth in the family over the years, but nothing of a girl at the age of 5, 6, 7, or 8. So my oldest daughter thought maybe Clara brought maybe that on herself, or with some weird stuff she might have been doing or whatever. I don't know. Clara's a pretty smart girl. She reads her Bible and all that stuff. So I experienced the same little girl. I'm assuming it's the same one.
How long ago was this?
Well, this was about 5 years ago, maybe.
Oh, wow.
And I might have mentioned it in the first podcast, but I didn't know Clara had experienced it.
Yes,
So that
I remember.
little hussy was in the house there, spooking me and Clara.
Well, why do you think it's not a friendly entity?
Well, I think I explained it to you. It was like when the TV used to go blank and they call it the ant race. It was just black and white fuzz. That's kind of the projection that I got. And it was only about 4 or 5 feet tall. And so it could have been an image of a little alien being. I don't want to go down that road per se, but I was under the impression it was a little girl with pigtails.
Yeah.
But maybe it had a helmet or a hat on. I couldn't see. It was fuzzy. I knew it was there because the hair on my neck was standing up. So it was there. I saw it.
I wonder if that's
but it was
caused
dark
by
and
energy,
Yeah. But I don't know what the hell. Anyway, we saged, prayed, all of those the Native American entities and the whatever this little gal was and other things. It's all gone now, and it's just. I think it takes time to help those spirits move on, or whatever the hell they are.
But Karen and Paul, they're
experiencing something similar, but not. Again, it's not nothing scary to them.
Right.
I guess.
Good.
Yeah. And she feels like it is Donna. They never knew Max because he died in the 80s, but one day Karen looked up and she saw a man in a flannel shirt, and she just assumed it was Paul, and but he never opened the door and left. He never came back in to the kitchen.
That's amazing.
And lo and behold, he was out in the garage with me, and she was like, there was a man standing right there with a flannel, looked right at me, and she couldn't. She says, "Now that I think about it, I don't know if I saw his face." She just assumed it was Paul,
Right. So right.
It's funny. It's good stuff. Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. Yeah, maybe Uncle
Well,
Max's.
tell me about some of your experiences when we lived there as a kid.
Well, yeah. So we
can kind of revisit that if you want.
The houses that Keith are talking about are up on a hill, in the house I'm getting ready to talk about.
Lane, and the other house is down on the hill on T43 lane.
The house I'm getting ready to talk about was down the hill, all within talking distance, right? So because that was part of family land. So yeah, we lived in there. What was I, 4 or 5? 4 and 5.
Yeah.
So not quite 2 years, I don't think.
77, 78, 79.
Oh yeah. Okay. So a couple of years. Mm-hmm. And man, I just had horrible nightmares. Like
4 or 5, 3 or 4.
They were so bad that when I'd wake up, I'd go get Mom.
Us out.
My experiences were bad nightmares, and they would tell me. I don't think they were trying to kill me per se, but it was it was tormenting, and like when I say they, it was just black, like
So
black
shadow
shadows,
people is what it was.
black
I saw them
shadows,
too,
and
but
man, they pinch and poke me with something sharp. And this is a dream, and I'm having these dreams in the wee hours of the morning, and I'd wake up. Now here's the crazy. I wake up and Mom, if she was in the bathroom getting ready for work, I'd see the light on in the hallway, so I'd run in there. I just tried to stay with her. Of course, she's trying to get ready for work, and I'm a hyperactive kid that's awake at 5 o'clock in the morning. So back to bed I'd go, but I'd turn that light on. I'd turn our bedroom light on. You and I shared a room. I'd turn that light on, and I didn't want to fall asleep. And then, man, as soon as I started to doze off, I would this is horrible, but I would hear this. You think that light's gonna save you? You think that light's gonna help you or stop us? I would hear that crap.
yeah,
We're gonna make it 10 times worse. Now it's gonna be really bad. And I'm like 4 years old.
yeah.
And I left the light on so I could stay awake, but then, when you're young, you in bed, just kind of start dozing off again. And they'd start saying that stuff. And I didn't want that. And if I fell asleep, man, I was in a dark place surrounded by shadow people, and they were not pleasant, to say
Yeah,
the
that
least.
was, you know, I think before we moved out of that house, it was up in the attic, and I found a Ouija board. It was up there in the attic.
Seriously?
Yeah, and
That explains a
that
lot.
probably explains a lot of the experiences we had over the years, and maybe even some of them to this day. And then, but it wasn't anything that we did.
No.
Um,
Well,
and Ouija boards were,
did
I
you
don't know
show
when they came out
Dad?
in
Did
the
Dad
80s.
throw it away? What
Yeah,
happened?
he threw it away, and
I'm surprised he didn't. I need a cough button like Joe Rogan's got.
yeah,
He told Graham Hancock a couple months ago, "Oh, hit that button. There's a cough button." And because Graham kept coughing,
uh,
I need that. So anyway, um, yeah, I'm surprised Dad didn't bless it, and
well, I don't know what the hell he
he
did with
might
it. He took
have.
it and got rid of it. Probably took it to his friend's house, and who knows what they did with it. But that you gotta. There's ways to combat that stuff, and
I do
you
not
should.
mess with the Ouija boards
Yeah, I don't mess
in
with
any
that
way,
stuff either.
shape, or form.
And you shouldn't try and tackle something that's beyond your spiritual comfort zone.
Yeah,
In my opinion,
I
there's
mean,
things you can do.
a lot of it, I'm sure,
Bible
is
scriptures. I mean, you got, if you don't believe in that stuff, you don't think there's a spiritual battle, princes and principalities and that stuff. You're
mhm.
crazy.
Well, I mean,
And
we
not
live.
everybody's experienced it, but
No, right?
it's real. It's real. It's
It's
not in
hard.
your mind. You could take a psychologist. Oh, it's in your mind and blah blah blah. No, it might be in the mind, but it's also a reality.
It would be hard to.
There's too much evidence out there.
Well, I don't know if there's really evidence, but there's
You don't know if
people.
there's really evidence. The Catholic Church and the casting out,
Sure,
exorcisms.
yeah, that's
There's
evidence.
plenty. I mean, I can't even think of the
But
three
unless you
major cases.
experienced it, if you haven't experienced it, it would be very hard to believe. I think it'd be hard for people to believe that such things can
I
happen.
get that. If you haven't experienced something, no matter how big or
Good
small
grief.
the experience,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Well, so there were the poltergeist was wild too, because you'd go up to our cousin's house. Keith would go up the hill to our cousin's house to go to school. I wasn't in school yet at this time, and I'd get back home and leave the lights on. I start playing with toys or whatever. And man, I always closed the door because I didn't want to be loud. I didn't want to wake Dad up, And knock, 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 on the door. And I had imaginary friends back then. Well, they weren't imaginary to me because I thought that was them.
Yeah.
I thought that was them. It's like, hey, is that you guys got? I'd say, you guys got to be quiet. Don't wake my dad. Now, I never heard anything. I never heard anything when I was awake other than the knocking.
Yeah.
Well, no, that's not accurate. But at this point in time in the morning, you just hear the knock. So one time I opened the door because I was like going to tell him, be quiet, don't wake my dad. And man, I opened that door one time, and it's like in the movies when you see the gush of wind, like in the movie Poltergeist or whatever. It was like that. I felt like the wind blew right through that door, man. And I was cool with it. I thought my friends were coming in.
Yeah.
It was almost like Poltergeist. You know how Carol Ann's playing with him at the beginning of that movie, and oh, they're here. You know, I was playing with my friends. Well, they weren't my friends.
And that reminds me of something that kids, especially kids your age, right? When something like that, two things. You can bring that stuff. My understanding of poltergeist is that's something that someone who has so much anger or
you can
energy built up
it.
Yeah, you can manifest it. So somebody in the house may have been angry enough to manifest it, but the only one that could see it are the kids. And
did you ever experience the knocking on the door? I never did ask you that.
I heard sounds. I think I did experience some knocking a couple times. Yeah,
there's usually just like,
yeah.
And this was on our bedroom door.
Right.
Yeah. And then one time I opened the door, and you know, in this house, if you opened this bedroom door, you could see across the hall is a neat little hallway, and then our parents' room was at the other end of the hall, and there was a bathroom in the middle of that hallway. And man, I saw shadows just flying on that wall in the hallway, and then I looked past the hallway. Remember where that spare bedroom was?
Mm-hmm.
We had that like the third bedroom there, and on the wall, man, I saw, you know, like a Native American, and he was standing with his hands on his hips, you know, like he was proud. He wasn't trying to. I wasn't intimidated or anything. I was fascinated because I could see his headdress.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh wow, an Indian. You know, that's what I thought, and that's exactly what it looked like. Only it was a shadow. So that's what leads me to believe that those mounds behind that house, how the hills are and the mounds, it might be a burial ground.
It very well could be.
Yeah,
James
so that
Benjamin.
happened too. And then of course the echoes, at night, I would hear like grandma or the relatives that lived there at Black's Landing. I would hear them yell for like, you know, oh, it's like
that I've heard that before too.
And I'm like, and I looked at Dad one time. I said, "You hear Aunt Sally? She's yelling for me."
Yeah.
And Dad's like, "Oh no, Scotty, it's 8:00 at night. Nobody's yelling at you.
Nobody's hollering."
And Scotty, that's what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
Oh man, and it was like I said Aunt Sally because a lot of times she would yell for Debbie, you know, if Debbie was with us hanging out or what. You remember how everybody communicated? There was no text messaging back in 1980. It was yelling across the landing.
Yeah.
And we had some loud relatives, but when I think about it, it wasn't really them. It was just something. It was something yelling my name.
Yeah.
Like it was trying to lure me out.
Yeah, sure.
But I never was spooked. I mean, we were out late at night sometimes as young kids at Black's Landing. It was always just beautiful. The stars, the moon, just great place to grow up, man. I'm not complaining about that. But this particular house was, you know, for me, it was scary as hell. And when I dream about it all these years later, and I dream about it once in a while, it is never good. And it's like, oh, you're back.
Yeah.
You know, you've come back, and it's creepy because usually I can have lucid dreams, and but when it comes to that house, it's very rare that I have a lucid dream, and I try to get away from it. Now, if I'm at your place where our grandparents lived, or anywhere else in a dream,
all good.
Great place to be.
Yeah.
And here's another weird thing that we're going to have to talk about sometime. If I have dreams where I died, and it happens a couple times over the years, right? I always end up at Black's Landing. Now, tell me, isn't that weird?
That is weird.
And I don't complain about it. I'm like, oh, this, I've had 3 homes in my life.
Spirits go to rest.
Yeah. It could be, you know. But I feel like I've had 3 home places I can call home throughout my 49. How old am I? 49. Oh my God. 48. How old are you? I can't remember. Anyway.
Older than you are.
Yeah. So and that's North Webster and Black's Landing, of course, down there in Springboro there. Yeah. Yeah, so those are some of my experiences. They weren't good. And there's the one time I had to go sit in the guest room for some reason, the guest bedroom, at night, whatever that was, and I did not want to go in there.
I never liked that house. I mean, I'll
And
just
it
be
hurt
straight
like
on.
hell.
I see it every morning now because I live up where our grandparents lived. But
I didn't forgive Dad for a long time.
yeah, that house was a crazy place.
Yeah, crazy place. But I don't like hearing about
it's all
entities at Grandpa's house.
It's all better now,
Because when I did have good dreams in that house, Grandpa was an archetypal guide. His house was my archetype, that guide that got you out of a scary situation or a nightmare.
Well, I'll tell you, I've had a couple dreams with Grandpa Bill in them, and one of them I had a dream I was still living in my house in Milford, and he was there, and he says, I'm just here for a short time, and I said, well, I don't know what to say or what to ask, and so I just want to enjoy this time that you're here. And then the dream was over.
Yeah, well,
and that was
another
crazy. I woke up and I felt like, holy cow. And then another time, I had visited the graveyard. It was my second visit there since putting them in the ground. And the first visit didn't go well. I couldn't even get out of the car. So I just left. So then a couple of years have went by, and I went back and I sat down and I kind of was talking like I was talking to him. I said, and all the other relatives, I just kind of mentioned all their names, but specifically talking to Bill Hardy, my grandpa, and I said to him, made some changes to the house. I think you and Grandma would like them, and we appreciate everything. And I things were a little touchy in the beginning, and but everything is good now. Yeah. Well, then after that, I don't know if it was the same night or a couple days later, whatever it might have been. I had a dream, and nope, that's not quite yet. I was on my way home from work, and the radio channel went out, and it was fuzz. Yeah, and I said to myself, people communicate on those frequencies. You hear the shh, and then you'll hear a voice, or you'll hear
white noise.
Yeah, and people come through and they'll talk. And in my mind, I thought, my grandpa could talk to me through this. And that's how the dream came. I didn't see him. He wasn't sitting in a chair. But it was like that moment, and it was, and he goes, I've signed off on the house, and everything is good. That it was brief. It wasn't any major, but it was sort of like him
giving you
responding to my visit to him at that place.
Absolutely.
But one thing to remember is, if you want to communicate with your folks that are in the afterlife that have already passed on, you don't need to be where the carcass is. You can talk to them anywhere you want to at any time, and just by mentioning their name. Yeah, I'm
convinced that when we dream of them, they're there. That's them.
Absolutely, I agree with that 100%. Yeah. So, and I'm not into psychic mediums. I'm not into
or the Ouija board. Don't ever communicate with your deceased ones like that. Do it through your dreams.
Some people are more susceptible to that stuff, and I think that if you don't believe in it and you experience it, is it real or is it not real? And we grew up in a religious household. And we were told that those things were real. So
for sure,
but we experienced things to to make valid
when something out of the ordinary happened. We already had an idea what was going on.
Yeah. So
for sure.
So that stuff is real, and if you experience it, um,
Let us know.
maybe leave a comment.
Leave a comment.
If you
We'd
like the
love to hear your
podcast,
experiences
we're just kind of randomly talking about our upbringing and a little bit of hauntings
on
and
Tippy
stuff.
Lake.
But these are all true stories.
Yeah, 100%.
Experienced, and
100%.
it's amazing how over the years you can continue to experience things, and it gets a little less. It's less for me now, and I think part of it is just accepting.
Yeah. Well, I told you
Accept,
yesterday.
that stuff, and
I don't think we caught it on tape, but I told you yesterday that I forgave whatever that was that tormented me as a 4-year-old, 5-year-old kid.
Yeah.
I forgave.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's all forgiven. You know, who knows what it is? Who knows what
you've
it is?
accepted it for what it was, and it no longer affects you in a negative way because you have said, "Look, it's okay."
I have
I'm not
awesome
afraid anymore.
dreams. I can
Yeah.
dream and dream because of those experiences, because I wanted to learn how to defeat those bad dreams. And at a young age, I learned to read really good, and I started reading books on dreams when I was 5 and 6 years old, and it worked like a charm. And for the most part, it worked really well. I forgave because, I who knows where we'll end up, where we'll be. But I'm gonna be the better, and I'm not gonna, whatever that was. Who knows? Who the hell knows? Man, we're gonna have so many great podcasts, and this one, what we went through when we were young, and what you've kind of gone through here recently with your in-laws being in the house next door and a couple of your kids.
Yeah.
Black's Landing on Tippy Lake, man.
When I lived on
something
the
going
other
on.
side of the lake, Forest Glen, it was, I think, T23 lane.
Yeah.
I had some crazy lucid dreams, and I had a lot of visual of like men in cowboy hats or just cowboys or something. I'm not sure what the hell that was all about. But over there, we had knocks on the door, and
you did?
Yeah,
you told me about that.
Ethan. One of the kids said that was the best. They never slept better than anywhere
else they lived.
But Ethan had experienced a couple of things there too, and but it never bothered him. So
No.
I don't know what was going on. I woke up one time and I went upstairs to get Angel to say, "Hey, it's time to come to bed." It was late at night. TV was on and she was sound asleep, and I thought she woke up and said, "Okay." And then I went into the other room, which was one of my daughter's rooms, because I thought I heard something, and nobody was in there. And the room it was yellow, but the room wasn't yellow. And then I'm like, what the hell's going on? And then I really woke up. So I think that was part of the lucid dream. And I woke up and I went upstairs. I go, Angel, I told you, are you coming down? And she's like, you never came up here. And I'm like, oh, that's weird.
Yeah, it seems so real.
That was a weird experience. And I think I've shared that with you before, but it's like, that was crazy. But, living on the lake and the water, there is always an energy there.
Yeah.
And, for the most part, it's good. It's all positive.
Yeah, for sure.
And stuff.
Natural energy.
Yeah.
Energy of nature.
Yeah, absolutely.
Natural
energy.
This wonderful area we live in.
Yeah, it's really
the dark and the light. Well, the light is always going to be, where it's at.
Like you have to have both, right? To have a balance, and when one gets out of balance, it creates issues, right? I mean, I don't get too spiritual, but you got the yin yang.
Sure, I believe that stuff.
Batteries have a positive and a negative post, and if one of them's out of whack, it creates problems. It's just, I don't know. I guess it's just the way life is. You have to have that balance.
Well, we're gonna have some good podcasts coming up because of that.
Yeah,
these things. Well, folks, we hope you enjoyed our recap of Black's Landing and the haunting of Black's Landing,
Yeah,
which is a real
part two.
thing. And
So we had some new stories,
yeah,
and we appreciate you
recapped some
tuning
old
in.
stuff.
So leave some comments if you like. If you like the stories that we're telling, these are true stories that we've personally experienced or our kids have experienced. And so let us know what you think.
Yeah, let us know if you've experienced anything too. Join us next time for the podcast on the history of the United States.
Yeah, that'll be a good one.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
And we will see you next time.
All right, Hardy Bros out.
Peace out.